procrastinating super hard today and was dragging my feet and did not want to do anything. I still haven't even done some of the other things I wanted to do, like work out or daily drawings, sketches. But anyways, oh yeah, and I am filming in the bathroom. I don't really have any place to film in my house, and this has the best lighting and built-in seating. Don't worry, I'm not. Anyways, so this is my Aquaman. Hopefully I said that earlier. Probably I didn't, but almost a minute in, and I'm just telling you why you're here. Alright, so I'm going to break this down into two parts, probably. What I liked, or if I liked it, and the other part being if it's good. Those are two separate things. Too often, too many people try and determine what is good based on what they like, and those are not the same thing. And if you're gonna objectively critique something, your preferences should be expected. Let's start with did I like it? Yes, definitely did like it. It was a very fun movie. Lots of beautiful visuals, and like different worlds, even though it was all took place on planet Earth. You can say that it's different zones, but just there's different locations and it had like it reminded me of a couple different things. It had a very high adventure, swashbuckling feel to it overall, and I don't know why, but the thing that keeps coming to mind is Sinbad. I don't know if I've ever seen a Sinbad movie from start to finish. I know there's one in like the 80s, kind of like a Conan type of movie, and that's exactly what it felt like. And it also felt like a Greek or Roman mythological story, like Clash of the Titans, or as my sister would say, Titans. That's her. That's just how she grew up saying it. So that's the proper saying. That's the proper way to say it when you're around her. Clash of the Titans. Anyway, so it has that feel mixed with Sinbad, and little, I guess, hints of fantasy, like never-ending story. Like the Fisherman's Princess is a character in this movie, and she reminded me of the princess from Never-Ending Story. So, another thing that I liked, this is gonna be the most disorganized, and I wanted to keep it under 5 minutes, and I'm already at 4 minutes, so mission failed. But anyways, another thing I really liked about this movie was the music. Even though it didn't have a distinct, it wasn't very distinct. The scores and like the orchestral pieces were enjoyable, and the villain themes were enjoyable. It's kind of the same theme, I think, for Black Manta and Ocean Master, or Orm. But also there's a lot of like electronic techno house music, which was very weird, but good weird. Like if you've ever seen the movie Drive, it has that like beep 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 beep. That's some alright, that's horrible, but it has techno electronic music in it, and so did this. It actually had it throughout the movie, and it was a surprising, or I guess unusual and enjoyable addition. Now, I know I said the visuals were appealing, and they are, because they just resonate with my imagination of going to different realms and different worlds that most people don't ever get to see in their lifetime, whether it's some metaphorical purgatory or hellscape, or the bottom of the ocean, some kingdom. You get to go all over the place. And so the imagination, or the way they depicted these places, was very appealing. But none of it really looked real. So that is kind of that could be off-putting to some people, or that could be off-putting. Like Into the Spider-Verse just came out, and that was a completely animated movie. And this came out, and it's supposed to be a live-action movie, but you could basically view it the same as an animated movie, like a completely CGI movie. And it felt very expansive. I don't want to say epic, because I don't know if it felt epic, but it felt very expansive. Like there's a lot of locations, and the underworld, or underwater world, was developed pretty well, and it did a pretty good job at world building within this specific movie and the specific underwater world. But it also did a pretty good job in world building with the overall DC extended universe. Like, for instance, in Wonder Woman, in like the history lesson, we find out about what we would consider in real life Greek gods, and in this movie, they're mentioned. So it connects. There's a connective tissue between the universe as a whole, and it makes it feel like this is a world with a shared history. But that said, the surface world feels like a caricature. Like it doesn't feel as developed or real as I personally like, or as real and recognizable as it does in like Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is kind of not strong enough to be a turnoff, but very apparent when you think about, or when I think about the other movies and their realism depicting not only human emotions, but just the human world, like we'll say the political system and just how people operate. And this movie did like a very watered down, generic version of that. Like there's one scientist, like, alright, a one-to-one comparison. There's a scientist that's in some news clip on one of the TVs in a scene in this movie 2 times, and he seems like he's a character. It doesn't seem like a real world scientist in any way, shape, or form. The closest scientist he could be compared to is the Ancient Aliens guy on History Channel with the hair standing up. And that guy in real life is playing a character. He's playing up the eccentric expert. And this guy felt like a very corny, cliche, crackpot scientist. Now you compare that to the news montage in BVS where the Earth is questioning the new status quo of this super powerful alien being residing amongst us, and it's a montage over there's a bunch of news people and experts talking over a montage of Superman doing what Superman does, and you can see the difference where it shows a range of people, and it feels like, yeah, this is what it would be like. This is a reasonable, realistic, recognizable response that would happen if we encountered someone like this. Whereas in Aquaman, it does not feel real or recognizable at all. Atlantis is real, and it's just too zany and corny. And not zany and recognizable, this is a weird person. This is the zany as in what we've come to expect in movies. Zany. Also, back to the visuals not looking real. Arthur, or Aquaman's parents, are de-aged or made to look younger in the film, and we still have not mastered that at all. Not at all. I mean, it's passable. All this stuff is passable. You can suspend your disbelief and enjoy the ride. No problem. But if you're really just being objective about it, it does not look... They look off. They look like they got some sketchy plastic surgery. So it's like... and we've seen this in like the MCU. They've been de-aged or heads have been removed and put on different bodies, and it looks bad. But like in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's been a wave, and they've gotten better. Like the best I've seen probably so far was Michael Douglas in Ant-Man, and that was pretty darn good. Now we'll see what Samuel L. Jackson looks like in Captain Marvel, but so far it looks pretty true to life. In this, unfortunately, it didn't. And then even after their real ages, or their current real world ages, are shown in the movie, Nicole Kidman looks a little off. Like she's had some work done. The fight choreography was very cool. Very, like I said, cool. The fight between Arthur and his brother was very cool to see. And between Aquaman and Black Manta and the mercenaries hunting with him was very cool. And sorry, I'm thinking I'll cut this out, hopefully. Um, all right, so I kind of lost my train of thought. Um, all right, so I guess back to uh, it being very enjoyable overall. It would have been more enjoyable if it was more realistic. Now, I know people like to make the argument of, oh, these are superheroes and all this stuff couldn't happen, but um, I don't agree with that or believe that. I mean, I don't think all we see is all there is to it. I think there's different types of life forms and different types of creatures out there that have a range of abilities. That said, even though this is not real, it's like, all right, but if it was, what would it be like? And it doesn't pass that test for me. Like, there's a lot of different corny moments in there. Like when Aquaman first encounters the pirates, Black Manta and his crew. And you can see it in the commercials too, of the cliches and the slapstick humor. Okay. Now, realistically, you are encountering some being that is able to move at superhuman speeds and lift superhuman weights, tons and tons of pressure up by themselves, and you're not gonna take that seriously? It's like, no. So right after he's like, permission to come aboard, he encounters these two pirates, and they like do the very cliche, corny, look at each other, look at him, start to shoot. Or in real life, okay, they'd be scared, and they'd be trying to survive at all cost as soon as he came in. They would not be looking at each other to do they would not be pausing for a comedic moment. And just that whole him fighting the pirates was meant for comic relief, which I personally dislike. I don't mind there being comedy in action movies, in comic movies, but I like it to be organic and real world comedy. I like things to happen to be funny, not to be set up to be funny. Also, there's a lot of kind of corny dialogue. Some of it could be dismissed as, oh, these people have their own culture, their own ways, and some of it is just the writing where it's like, all right, just corny dialogue. And there's a couple cliche moments, but there's also a couple moments where it would be cliche, but they turn it on its head or turn it on its side, and it ends up not being cliche. Like another moment from the trailer, we see the biker gang approach Arthur, and you, if you're like me, roll your eyes and think, oh, it's gonna play out this way. But then they will say, I guess, subvert expectations, and it plays out a different way. And even though, and that's a pleasant surprise for me. But the way it did play out was still very corny and very extra, we'll say. Now, now as far as quality goes, do I think it is a good movie? No, I don't think it's good, but I think it's pretty good. I think the acting um, is pretty good throughout it, especially for the main people like Aquaman and just the main cast. And I guess the strongest um, or the strengths of the movie are the interactions between Aquaman and his brother. And there's we'll say a nuance to it where there's the just varying and multiple emotions that these people that are related have, that grew up in two different areas, and they had their hopes and dreams and their thoughts about each other, and they have their feelings about each other, and now that they're meeting in real life for the first time, they bring all of that history and thoughts and feelings, and it's not just this straightforward, you're the bad guy, I'm the good guy type of thing. It's more complex than that. The action, like I said, was very enjoyable and very well done. Some of it made no sense, like movie physics. Like there's a specific moment where Aquaman is swinging a couple monsters that have been harpooned, and he ends up swinging them into the mast of the ship that he's on. But in real life, it wouldn't. He wouldn't be able to do that. And some of it is like it looks like wire work, like spin kicks and stuff, or it's like it could be done in real life, or even if you turn it up because of their super abilities, but that's not how it would look in real life. The visuals, again, are very ambitious, we'll say, and the colors are vibrant. And alright, so it's hard to say. It's like the visuals don't look real, but they look good. So it's like, you can tell that this great white shark is not a real shark, and you know what a real shark looks like, but it looks good. You can tell that this crocodile's not real, you can tell that this person's not real, but it's still appealing looking. The music, the score was definitely good. None of the pieces stood out for me, even though I enjoyed the villain music. I couldn't reproduce it if you asked me to. And the electronic music, the techno that I mentioned liking, was also very good, and it was just a interesting movie overall. I should have probably wrote down my thoughts. But maybe hopefully I'll do a more thorough breakdown after I get this movie on home release. Or maybe after I see it again, because I definitely want to see it again. And the story was pretty well executed. Yeah, I mean, not especially complex, which is fine. But the way it was handled was pretty good. Definitely some cliche moments that I dislike and that I think are they bring down a movie when they are in the movie, like the one-liners and when there's like we'll say a payback. So okay, something happens to a quote-unquote good guy early in the movie, and then later on in the movie that good guy gets to have their revenge and say their little one-liner, and the opposite happens to the person, the bad guy that did it to the good guy. So kind of think of like in The Dark Knight when Lucius Fox says to the person he's replacing, "Didn't you get the memo?" Where the early in the film, the guy said to him, "Didn't you get the memo that you're being fired?" So that type of thing very often can be cliche, generic, expected, and therefore negatively impact the movie. And it has things like that in there. As far as the overall universe and how it's connected to it, I don't know. There are changes in it that are not explained, and it could go either way. It's like, is this more connected to the Whedon cut of Justice League and the new direction, I guess, that Warner Brothers is trying to move in, or does this connect with the Snyderverse that was the foundation of this movie series? Perfect example is in this film, this is the first time that Aquaman supposedly has ever gone to Atlantis. But in Justice League, he encounters Steppenwolf at some undisclosed location underwater that's protecting a very precious artifact from early human history. So there's kind of like a lapse there. Alright, so he's never been to Atlantis, but he got his battle armor from someplace, and it was a unique battle armor that he used to defend Earth when fighting Steppenwolf and his forces. In Justice League, he has aqua turquoise eyes. In Aquaman, he has honey yellow eyes. Now, if his eyes changed after acquiring a certain ability or a certain artifact, I'm trying to not spoil anything. Even though I know this is, I warned you, if I do spoil something, it's on you. But alright, so if his eyes changed colors because he got the King's Trident, which, I mean, come on, he's the superhero, you can kind of already predict what will happen, then that would be fine. But the fact of the matter is, alright, so Justice League ends, his eyes are turquoise. Aquaman begins, his eyes are honey. It's like, what? Makes no sense. But they do mention Steppenwolf in this movie, which is a plus. It's like, alright, I like that there is an acknowledgement of a world beyond the one that we're visiting in this little 2-hour period. So there's mention of Steppenwolf, there's mention of Poseidon, so Olympians, and So I'm very curious to see how Shazam develops. If it's going to be, how it's going to develop its own standalone world, and how it's going to further develop the extended world that we've come to see so far. Now, that said, Aquaman definitely got me excited, and it made me want to rewatch some of the other DC movies. It made me want to rewatch Wonder Woman, which I think is only a mediocre movie. But and it made me want to rewatch it, and it made me want to rewatch Man of Steel. It just made me want more, ultimately, and that's a very good thing that a movie has going for it. When it makes me want more, it means that I enjoyed what I experienced. And that said, Aquaman is what Wonder Woman should have been. I know it's not the pinnacle of pinnacles, but for me, I think they held back too much in Wonder Woman. It could have been a lot better. Not only was it generic, it was obviously a negative, but also it didn't feel like they went for it. It felt undercooked. Where in Aquaman, they didn't hold back, and they, so whether they succeeded or failed, they really went for it. And Wonder Woman being connected to almost like the foundation of the world and the creators of the world, it should have felt more epic. It should have felt a bigger scope. It's like, alright, the Olympian gods played a bigger role in Wonder Woman than they did in Aquaman. But they felt more grand, and they felt their presence was felt more in Aquaman. And that's saying something. So okay, they're main part of the Wonder Woman movie, but they feel less